heart.
Caesar went from, I'll have her home by 8, sir, to, wow, Granddad looks angry with just one update. Eyeing barbs the same way women eye TCLR subscribers, I've meticulously wasted away in the lab for the past week concocting the optimal strategy. Utilizing the fact that Sid Meier himself logs in and takes control of the barbarians whenever I play to truly inflict maximum pain, as I can now farm off his malicious intentions using the gold pilfered to fund my philanthropic organization, also known as the Roman Military-Industrial Complex. While the other leaders are looking at my double attack legions with the dread of a princess after her dad remarks on his need for a renewal of their alliance with France. It's time to embark on I'm not going to lie, this is a less than ideal start than I'm used to. I can already hear that one commenter typing away, I've never had a start this good, what the fuck are you even saying? Streamer luck, I guess. In between 8-hour rounds of viscerally arguing for the abolition of the age of consent laws on Twitter,
I couldn't fucking control myself, you know what I mean?
Second attempt at rendering my enemies obsolete goes much better as the 2-tile desert to my southeast really illustrates how disgusting and unbelievable the new Caesar is. Or whatever art snobs say while sipping wine with their pinky up in between rounds of antidepressants. I locate a campus location and immediately demonstrate my acting skills, giving off the best Wolf of Wall Street impersonation you'll ever bear witness to, while simultaneously teching towards what I commonly refer to as late-stage abortion devices and battering rams. Caesar's leader ability as I came, I saw, I conquered, but is unique in that when Cleopatra is present in the game, it metamorphosizes into VD, Vini, and Vini again.
Auga, boobies, boobies.
I plunder barb encampments and enemy cities enough so as to train a new legion and have enough left over to purchase college textbooks. If I'm looking to rent, of course. Before using the word train in an entirely different context altogether, railing the AI one after another with peak ferocity and crystal clear choo-choo sounds. Deity, mods in use, districts placed, leakage protection, underwear equipped, all of the essentials checked for. I'm ready to see what this fine specimen can do now that he doesn't have to worry about his plot armor getting wasted by a bunch of geezers with rusty bread knives. The only et tu Brutus I want to hear is after he sees his boy chained up in Nuremberg right beside him for some less than swell actions. Vatican ensures I'll secure an early pantheon, no doubt essential to convincing my populace to work for free for the Lord and secure some iron. With owls discovered, I enlist the services of Amani, who I'm confident will do fine. The Vatican is infamous for its tolerance of religious beliefs during pre-modern times, of course. Suicide mission given, I secure another envoy, further proving the lack of need for scouts while discovering my first victim. But before I can conduct my scientific experiment of which religion is right by sending our task force to dispatch our implied consent volunteer, I realize the Vatican learned barbs aren't Catholic and have launched a crusade already. Shockingly, they rough them up a bit, take their wives, children, and gold before leaving, which devastates me. Truly nothing short of barbaric. How could you not finish the job? Leave no survivors. After realizing a comet is in orbit, I thank Sid Meier himself as I'm free to leave and tour the world while I patiently await for its landing. Preceding some visceral and intense combat, I leave the uncivilized Cretans in various stages of decomposition, extracting the iron from their blood's hemoglobin before painting it gold over 330 times, providing me with the funds needed to purchase a settler turn 13. 13?
And apology, I wasn't really familiar with your game. And
if I knew the extent of his power, I would have gladly handed Firaxis my encrypted information, passcodes, and social security number to boot. Although knowing Sid Meier stays posted for whenever I play a game, it wouldn't have mattered either way. After establishing relations with 3 city-states and exploration of my continent assured, the Barb Camp counters my plundering of their valuables with a singular hoplite. Well, I may just shit myself in pure terror. Won't even need the late-stage abortion devices for that. Boys, take 'em away. Unfortunately, disaster strikes as the first leader I find is Chandragupta. The only worse civ for early conquest I can think of is Vietnam.
That's called foreshadowing.
Gonna be facing war elephants looking to kick my post-mortem urinarian continents into high gear. I decide the correct play is to dominate the city-states around me, seeing as none of them are especially needed, and since my early war is a no-go and lust for blood unable to be satiated through other means. It's nothing personal. Nabbing the meteor that gave me a vacation, adding in a free chariot to my ranks which will subvert expectations and prove useful past turn 20.
Open sesame! Well, I've done all I can do.
Mostly due to its cross-dressing before sucking affluent businessmen dry of their funds for 30 more turns in this specific barbarian encampment in the northeast. I finally secure my trauma team and equip them for cheap, considering 3 of these guys can be upgraded after a single successful extraction from one of the sugar babies under our employ.
Yeah, strong.
This cannot be real, this game is rigged. I am about to swipe my chariot's attire and storm up to Firaxis HQ myself, demanding the manager. I step 1 foot into Vietnam's territory, I'll be stepping right back out 1 turn later after resting my gaze onto the 3-nippled creature leading their defense. It's no wonder Vietnam's been impervious to conquer for any empire. One look at this unholy trinity of milk production and the leadership bleaches their eyes, leaving no one qualified enough to lead an invasion and a retreat the only advisable option. I joined the sect, not opposed to going down on their partners every day out of the month, wielding vampires like King Arthur wields Excalibur, and in typical AI fashion, India steals one of my planned cities and then calls me stinky for having the audacity to settle near them. This assault on common knowledge and my pride would normally face a retaliatory strike in the name of my boys Homie and Geno over there, but considering he's got the first animal to ever hunt humans, for nothing more than the sole purpose of perpetually spreading their cheeks beyond normal elasticity on his payroll, I'll have to bide my time for now. I secure a golden age and make to walk in and secure Zuckerberg's fortune for my own, inquiring to the Vatican as to if God will accept them after getting a divorce with their head from the rest of their body. An answer that'll take many thorough experiments to discover, no doubt. Scientific theory must be upheld, of course. I secure my northern border from absolutely nothing and reform the government into an oligarchy to give even more steroidal benefits to my already well-promoted army before 2 swings is sufficient to tear down their walls, proving my drug induction methods may have been a bit overkill. I meet Harold, who will no doubt fix 80% of his military budget to melee naval ships in this Pangaea map right after taking the Vatican, which I've spared the sight of in respect to the fact YouTube doesn't usually allow porn on their website. To describe what happened in layman's terms, my roleplay of a European monarch continued, even got my family tree beginning to resemble the recycling logo, judging by how our leader looked 4,000 years ago as compared to now. I send out more settlers to manifest destiny and stake a claim to Brussels using the casus belli of who the fuck is gonna stop me.
Smell like bitch in here. All y'all smell like bitch.
Sensing there was a Civ lifer playing this game in its vicinity, a barbarian quadrireme rolls through and continues assaulting the gates of the Vatican, forcing me to divert much-needed funds. Well, the funds would have been wasted, it seems, as my current legions are more than capable of turning Brussels into my fuck toy already. Cooking the city-state so well done, I get congratulations from my neighbor in the form of a denouncement for warmongering. Chandragupta, in his furious message, claims my speaking out of my asshole is quite the strange genetic anomaly, while also stating that my butthole is just as pleasant as my mouth. A step up from calling me stinky, no doubt, but has me a little worried that he wants to do to me what my legions have been doing to everybody else all game. I make the difficult decision of thanking the man for his roundabout compliment by sending an envoy of my legion's finest to avoid further confusion by showing him the proper custom we Romans are familiar with, more commonly known to the wider public as genocide. I also also declared a second front against Babylon, which would normally pose a distraction from our greater goal, but considering their vaunted home guard of 2 warriors, unprotected borders, and a mountain pass not extending northwards, I kindly decide to help cover their porous northern border. After all, if there's no border, there's no border problem. Owning them so thoroughly, I've been informed by the Vanguard I'll need to claim Babylon on my tax returns next year. I simultaneously secure the city of Agra, which will stay under my control so long as I don't enter a dark age and India stays at normal or below. All the while, I continue showing the world my new scientific discovery of metastasis and exactly how it works. India, ever so gracious of this biology lesson, gifts me a free settler, but knowing nothing good ever comes free makes my soldiers chase after it to earn my reward. At the same time, a legion of barbs from a weakened encampment to our south arrive with the intent to flatten our collective ballsack. However, it proves trivial and reveals a camp which we can purge rather easily before continuing our tumor-like expansion throughout the world's habitable landmass. After furthering their educational pursuits quite considerably, the Indians ask if we can demonstrate what a gangbang is, and I oblige, continuing to improve our blossoming friendship. Raiding the barbarian encampment, confident in the fact I can deal with any spearman. I seem to have miscalculated. I am willing to accept some responsibility for this outcome. The sheer terror exhibited by our civilians at this new army that was spawned at our doorstep leads us into a dark age, and due to my reading comprehension barely surpassing the prerequisite to get through Cat in the Hat unscathed, I believe that number to be -2 loyalty and not -12. The Barb army, whose wealth I've taken for myself, a fact that leaves them with a less than stellar view of my reputation, surprisingly enough, begin violently accosting my legion in a Scooby-Doo chase scene. The moment I settle megalomaniac, however it's pronounced, I realize the problem. Through Vietnam's veto, my horrific past is never answered for, leaving only anime to research before I can formally claim I was role-playing the Japanese this entire time.
Relax, bro. They're all 18. Most of them.
The Barbs have been mistakenly informed my legion knows how much they need to pay in taxes this year, as we now have an even greater number of barbarians chasing after us, failing to relent in their pursuits. With India formally entering a golden age, the local populace I have brutally conquered radicalizes, leaving me to decide pieces in our best interests, as that may help tame the people of Agra. However, that valiant effort at peace proves futile, leaving me with the bittersweet option of just sacking my own city, a Roman classic. Historians would classify this war as a Pyrrhic victory for Rome, but a victory nonetheless. After doing everything I can to keep Meganium under my control, I realize that may not be a possibility after all, and through my enlightened wisdom, I decide that the will of the people needs to be answered, with riot police and rubber bullets as a response. Although with my army of hardened veterans possessing questionable ethics and Damascus steel as sufficient replacements on such short notice, the city has a very strong opinion on my massacring of their protesters, forcing me to continue the butchering until the next era. The turn after I make peace and have an enforced peace treaty of 10 turns in a universe where treaties are essentially shackles, India asks if I'm declaring war again, which I almost tempt to see if I could declare the war, but decide it's best to focus on internal affairs instead. The next 30 or so turns is filled with my rounding out the empire, developing my institutions for learning, and attempting to keep the inquisitive barbarians at bay who have drawn upon what appears to be the entire world's population who demand to know my secrets of tax determination. I am thankfully able to keep such powerful secrets under wraps, as I salute this lone man-at-arms as a sacrifice to destroy their base of operations, but something peculiar occurs. The Barbs leave him alone. After another promotion and recruiting season through which I named this mythical being Rodney for his stellar performance, we speed through several gang initiations imposed on the mentally handicapped barbarians as I meet Gatarja, who utilizes a very perplexing execution strategy which I send a delegation to observe for themselves. At this stage, the joviality of this specific game has reached critical mass, leaving not much else to discuss aside from meeting the final stage autosave reminiscent of a Skid Row crack addict who offered a blowjob for a Lincoln while I was at Walmart the other night, and a double attack man-at-arms named Rodney that no doubt has as much karma as you're left with after nuking Megaton in Fallout 3. Not much left to talk about, as after forming a corps of musket men, observing India's neglect in keeping their fortifications up to date, necessitating a singular siege tower, and my securing of a heroic age as opposed to their dark age, I'm left with the difficult question of how can I leave him be when he's open carrying his 2-incher? I can't. Which is really unfortunate, as I now have to introduce him to Rodney. Declaring a war of territorial expansion, citing the casus belli of Delhi sounds Roman enough to me. A military alliance with Harold gives me the edge I need to counter their Varu's zone of control debuffs, which make little sense when you think about it. I'm certain an army of muskets would be sufficient to wipe out an elephant without too much trouble, but whatever, I shrug, as with my bevy of promotions, India will go down in the history books as a once great, now one province minor, pushing through their frontiers and reaching their inner fortifications. At this point, I lose interest. I've got 20 cities top the science leaderboards with just libraries, and I'm a few dozen next turns away from classifying this universe's Pearl Harbor as endemic to the entire landmass. Safely concluding that I would easily win this game, especially considering Civ 6 AI is famous for their daily tart-offs they have with one another. If you want me to continue this ball-busting torture, let me know in the comments, as I will risk a sit down at the Hog if the people so desire, and check out my other content. I'll see you all next time. Peace.